Hey everyone, so as you can see by the title, you know what this video is going to be about. Some of you guys might be surprised, some of you might not be. Honestly, it's a video I debated with myself about making it all because, you know, obviously I'd let you guys know that we are no longer vegan, but I didn't really know if I wanted to make a video going into depth about the reasons why, or if I just kind of wanted to say, look guys, we're not vegan anymore. There are some reasons, but that is just that. But I thought that it was better to just make a video with the reasons, just to kind of be honest with you guys. There's a lot of you guys that have been following for a long time. I know a lot of you guys are also vegan too, and maybe you look up to us as a vegan family, and yeah, you might just want a bit more understanding as to why this happened. So yeah, I just thought I'd make this video, and it is kind of a long story. There are a lot of different elements to the story, and I'll try to condense it as much as I can, just so the video is not too long. But yeah, I'll start at the beginning. So we have been vegan, or we were vegan for about 3 years. Before that, we were vegetarian for about 3 years. So we went vegetarian from about April 2014. So over 7 years now. And then somewhere in 2017 we started eating a lot more vegan food. We didn't go completely vegan probably until the beginning of 2018. So we were vegan for 2018, 19 and 20. And we were very strictly vegan. So we didn't eat any animal products, obviously, no meat, no dairy, no honey, no eggs, and no byproducts, nothing with gelatin, nothing with carmine, nothing with vitamins derived from sheep's wool, and everything like that. And we weren't just vegan with our food, we were vegan with all sorts of things like household products. And our reason for going vegan was for the animals. I mean, we were already vegetarian, we'd been vegetarian for 3 years. So it kind of just felt like the next step was to go vegan. And so, you know, that's what we did. We sort of transitioned to it slowly. It was easier for us because we already had been vegetarian for years, so we didn't have to cut out anything like meat. It was sort of just dairy and eggs and all of the products that have dairy and eggs and honey and stuff in it. Probably for the first year to year and a half of being vegan, myself personally, I was like super passionate about it. I just had a very strong mindset, and honestly I'm kind of embarrassed about it now. I feel like I was really judgy about people who weren't vegan, and sort of after that year or year and a half, I feel like I mellowed out a lot about it, and I felt a lot less judgy towards other people. And not just in the veganism area of life, I feel like just in all areas of life, I feel like I just went through something where I just was a lot more accepting of everyone and their choices no matter what. But we were still vegan. I just kind of thought, you know, this is my choice and other people can choose what they want to choose. And obviously all along in this journey, my kids were also vegan with me because, I mean, Ro and I, when we went vegetarian together, and so did the kids. I mean, when we're cooking food, we're going to cook for them what we cook for us, and then the same thing when we went vegan. So Ro and I both went vegan together, and then just naturally the kids were vegan with us. And one question we always got was, what about if the kids don't want to be vegan? What would you do if they don't want to be vegan? And I mean, I think again in that first year of being vegan, I was probably a lot more like, oh, you know, they do want to be vegan, I know they do. But you know, after I felt like I'd chilled out a lot more with it, I kind of just thought, you know what, they probably won't be vegan. I always kind of thought some of them might stay vegetarian like when they grow up, some of them will go back to being omni, you know, non-vegan, and some of them might stay vegan. And I just sort of separated myself from them, thinking, you know, like what they do is what they do. and all I can do is sort of like raise them with the sort of morals and values that I want to raise them with, but ultimately their choices are going to be their choices. And honestly, they were very happy to be vegan and they enjoyed it. They loved like, you know, finding vegan food, and like they'd always get excited about vegan products, and they'd always make sure to check if everything was vegan and everything. So, and as a family, health wise, like physically, I don't feel like there was anything wrong with being vegan. I think the kids all still grew perfectly well on a vegan diet. They were all very healthy. I was healthy. I did have some problems with low iron as a vegan, but I had the same problem with low iron as a vegetarian and when I was eating meat way back when. So I never attributed low iron to being vegan. That is just something that I deal with no matter what kind of food I eat. See, this is turning out to be long already. Anyway, getting back to why we decided to not be vegan anymore. So it all started in my pregnancy with the twins. So obviously I started off my pregnancy vegan, and towards the end of my pregnancy, one of the babies, Sylvie, was diagnosed with intrauterine growth restriction. So what that is the baby is growth restricted. The same thing happened to Pearl when I was pregnant with the triplets, but with Pearl it was extremely severe. Just a note, I wasn't vegan in my pregnancy with the triplets, we were vegetarian then. But anyway, the thing about intrauterine growth restriction is it happens with multiples a lot. It is just very common in multiples. It also happens to anyone. It can be just completely random. Sometimes it's got to do with how the placenta attaches to the uterus and how the cord forms and delivers the nutrients and everything. But you know, in my research on how to help intrauterine growth restricted baby grow, I found a lot of information about eating as much protein as possible, and I think irrationally I was blaming myself you know, for my diet. I thought that it was my fault, or I didn't think it was my fault per se. I just thought maybe I could help her grow better if I incorporated some animal products back into my diet. So I decided to bring back eggs and some dairy products back into my diet, thinking that, you know, it's just gonna be for the end of my pregnancy while I am trying to help these babies grow as much as I can. And I really struggled with that. I obviously wanted to do the best things for the babies, didn't even know if it was important or good for the babies. I guess I think it was, like I said, a really irrational sort of thought, blaming myself, blaming my diet for the babies not growing as well as they could. But really, that is just kind of what happens with multiples a lot of the time. It's not really got to do with being vegan. But again, I just hoped that adding some of those products back into my diet would at least help the baby grow. Anyway, babies were born. Sylvie was small. She wasn't like so growth restricted that it was like a huge issue. She was just little petite. And so I went back to being vegan and thought, well, you know, and sort of the next stage in this transition was when it came to my feeding journey with the twins. So a lot of you guys that have been following me for a long time might know that I struggle with breastfeeding. I always have ever since I had Evan. I just produce very, very, very little milk. And it's due to a condition called insufficient glandular tissue. So it is something that I can't help. I just don't produce a lot of breast milk. And that has been that way for every baby that I've had. So we knew that when the twins were born, I mean, we were very, very sure that the same thing would happen. So we were very prepared for that. As vegans, that was tricky because all of our other babies who we weren't vegan when we had them, they just had cow's milk formula. And so we were like, oh no, we're vegan. They can't have cow's milk formula, which I realize now sounds quite irrational. But you know, we had been vegan for years. And so we sourced a lot of donor milk, which I highly recommend doing anyway if you can, because it's a really great way to feed a baby if you're unable to breastfeed yourself. So we gave them a lot of donor milk, and then as a backup from donor milk we had soy formula. And we didn't want to use donor milk forever because donor milk I always felt like should be saved for like newborns and preemies and little babies that need it, and I felt too guilty taking it while the babies were bigger, even though the mothers were donating it. So then we moved on to soy formula. And so we fed this soy formula to the babies. In fact, we bought a lot of it. We bought like 15 tins of it or something because we bought it in bulk. But anyway, the babies, they didn't like it. They didn't want to drink it. Like, it's sort of hard to explain. They would kind of drink it, but they kind of just kept spilling out of their mouths and they weren't keen on it. Like, they didn't drink much of their bottle. And it was a bit of a struggle to get them to gain weight while drinking this soy formula. They didn't seem very interested in it. And so we decided to try the dairy formula, the same one that all of our other kids had had. And it was completely different. The babies drank it completely fine. Like, it was easy to drink. They drank the whole bottle. So we decided that we were going to switch them to the dairy formula. And even though we initially felt really guilty, you know, we felt like we were, you know, breaking our veganism and going back on our veganism, just those same guilt feelings that I had in my pregnancy. We felt really comfortable with the decision, knowing that it was the same formula that our other kids had had and that it had helped them grow healthy and strong. And so that is, you know, not super relevant to why none of us are vegan anymore. But it's just kind of one of the things that happened along the way that contributed to our feelings and our decision on, you know, moving away from veganism. So fast forward a little more, the kids start school, and this is sort of where things really change, I suppose. So at school, when there's a birthday, the birthday kid brings in a cake. And I mean, that cake isn't vegan because the family is not vegan. At the school they're going to now, the cake always has to be gluten-free, dairy-free, because some kids have intolerances to those. But the cake isn't vegan still. It usually still has eggs. And the kids have been vegan for many years. They're like, I can't eat that. I'm vegan. And so in the beginning we would, you know, give them alternatives. We would pack them a slice of cake if we knew that they were going to be having cake that day. It came to a point where we weren't always notified, and so sometimes they'd just come home upset that kids at school had cake and that they missed out. We tried to pack different treats, you know, things that they could just keep at school, like biscuits and stuff like that. But in the end, it just wasn't the same. Like, they still felt like they were missing out on the same cake that all their school friends were having. And so, you know, we sat the kids down and we said, you can eat the cake if you want to eat the cake, and it's okay. You know, like, you don't have to feel bad about wanting to eat the cake that's at school. And it kind of felt like they wanted to say yes, that they wanted to eat the cake. They were quite reluctant. I guess just the way I felt in my pregnancy when I ate non-vegan food. But we reassured them that it was okay. And in the end, they said, okay, we'll eat the cake. And so, you know, that was, I suppose, the end of their veganism, because they were eating cake at school. And not only that, in the TRIPLETS kindy, they also make food there. So like every Monday they made bread and it had honey in it. Every Wednesday they have veggie slice, which is made with eggs, and every Friday they make like a honey slice, which has honey in it. And so for the first few weeks, we were bringing alternatives to all these things. Some nights we would forget and we'd stay up till past midnight making a vegan veggie slice for them to take to school in the morning. And it just started to feel a little bit ridiculous. Not only that, but at their school, they go to a Steiner school, they build things with beeswax. They use beeswax crayons, they use real wool for knitting and crocheting. The school has their own chickens that they look after. The chickens lay eggs, they use those eggs in cooking and all sorts of things. So it was already like, you can't really be a strict vegan there, if that makes sense. And all of these things had us feeling like, oh no, like, what are we gonna do? We're vegan, this doesn't work. Well, that's sort of how we felt before the cake debacle. But obviously, like, we didn't say they couldn't use the wax and they couldn't use the wool or anything like that. So they were always joining in on the things at school. We told them from the beginning, don't worry about it. You know, it's just a part of your school. So you know, that wasn't a big issue. That was never really a huge issue for us, but that was just like a sort of a minor part of the story. Like I said, I feel like there are so many little aspects to this story that sort of led us to deciding to step away from veganism. And then just over time, I really started to feel a pull away from veganism. I started to feel like the all or nothing mentality was toxic, or at least it was having a toxic effect on me. I felt like it was very anxiety inducing, and I was sort of worried that that would also rub off onto the children. So I felt like having an all or nothing approach with food was, you know, kind of setting the kids up to have a bad relationship with food, and I really didn't want to do that to them. It didn't feel like that in the beginning. It really didn't. It felt like, it felt, because we were vegetarian for years, and that never felt restrictive at all, because there are always vegetarian options everywhere, and the kids never seemed interested in the alternative, which again, they might be one day, and that's up to them. But there were always vegetarian options, and that never felt like anyone was missing out. But then veganism is a whole different story, you know, like you can't eat a lot of stuff because, you know, it's got the last ingredient on there is like milk solids or something, and then it's just automatically not vegan. You're not allowed to have it, which is kind of easy when you go vegan at first, but then after a while, and after all these things sort of start unraveling, it felt really arbitrary, I suppose. I started feeling like, you know, we don't have any allergies. It doesn't really make sense to avoid things with a small amount of milk solids in it. And same with like going out to events and things like that, like going to birthday parties, going out for dinner with people, going out family events, barbecues, lunches, and all sorts of things. I mean, yes, you can bring your own vegan food, but often people will want to cater for you. And that can just feel really heavy after a while, feeling like you are making people go to a lot of effort. And some people probably don't want to go to all that effort. And I think it also restricts you from wanting to go to things, or from people wanting to invite you to things, because it just makes it tricky. So, I mean, I feel like it had a big impact on all of our social lives, not only, you know, like me and Ro, but the kids as well. I feel like being vegan restricted our social lives quite a lot. And so all of these little reasons sort of came together, making sort of one big feeling inside of me. And that feeling was that I felt like the restrictions of veganism was sort of causing a lot of stress for me. And not only that, but some mental health issues, you know, making me feel like if I ate something that wasn't vegan, then I'm not worthy as a human, that I'm not good enough, that I was a bad person, essentially, because I had told myself all of this over the years that, you know, like, to be a good person, I had to not eat this food. And I didn't even realize that it was quite like that until we were sort of coming out of it, I guess. But, you know, as we stepped away from veganism, I did realize that all of these feelings were attached to it, and that I really don't feel like it was good for my mental health, or like a good mentality to raise my kids with. And that's just how I personally feel. So this isn't anything against any other vegans. This is just personal to me. Like, I think veganism works. Like I said, we didn't have any health problems or anything like that. It was really just the mentality of it. And yeah, just struggling with that really black and white thinking, that feeling of needing to be perfect. And so it sort of brings me to my conclusion. You guys might be wondering, if we're not vegan, then what are we? And I mean, sort of the point of stepping away from veganism is to just stop putting a label on ourselves and our diet and everything like that. But since you guys will want to know, and we will still be putting food in the vlogs and everything like that, and we still have been, we still eat a lot of vegan food. So we still really enjoy vegan food. We eat vegan probably most of the time still. We're still not eating any meat, we're not buying dairy milk, but we are just not restricting ourselves when it comes to products that have, you know, milk products in them. We've also eaten eggs and honey and yogurt and cheese and other dairy products. So basically we are vegetarian again, just like we were before we were vegan. We're just kind of eating the foods we want to eat, but we're just, you know, not restricting ourselves to purely vegan food only. So that's it, guys. We aren't vegan anymore. I'm not vegan. The kids aren't eating vegan anymore, and we don't consider ourselves a vegan family, and we're okay with that. It's taken me a little while to make this video as we haven't been vegan for the past couple of months, but I just sort of needed some time to process it before sharing it. You know, I am worried that I will disappoint people. I know I'll disappoint people. I know a lot of you guys will probably be really disappointed in hearing this, but I've just got to remember that this is my journey and our journey as a family, and I feel like we are in a better place now, like mentally and emotionally. I feel like we're in a better place. But I have met a lot of lovely friends being vegan, and a lot of people I know are vegan, and I do have this fear that all of my vegan friends are going to completely disown me, and that might be true, but I've got to stay true to myself and to, you know, what I feel is right for me and my family, just as you should do what is right for your family as well, whether that is vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, omnivore, all of the things. You know, I feel like everyone has their own path, and you got to do what is right for you. And I still feel like everyone should, you know, be as educated as possible on what they eat, where their food comes from, and we still obviously aim to do that, and we are doing that with our children. And that doesn't just go for food, that sort of goes for everything. And sort of in this transition, I've kind of compared it a lot to, you know, plastic free and zero waste living and everything, and how I think plastic free and zero waste living is amazing, and I would love to do that, but for a lot of reasons I feel like it just doesn't quite feel achievable for me and for our family. And so instead of being plastic free and zero waste, we do the best where we can, and we try to make good choices. We might not always make the best choices, but we always try and do our best. And I find that that is how I'm feeling about food right now. I just want to do the best we can, even if it's not perfect. And, you know, not beat ourselves up over not being perfect all the time, because it is hard to be perfect all the time, and it is hard to sort of live in that mindset that you have to be perfect all the time. And if you don't adhere to 100% perfection, you are bad. You are a bad person. It's really just that mindset that I want to break away from, and that I don't want to raise my children with. Openness and willingness to, you know, explore new things, and willingness to change your mind. Even if you had stuck to something for a really long time, be willing to explore another option for whatever reason. And our past year has sort of taught us that a lot, I suppose. Going from homeschooling for years as well to putting our kids in school was a big thing for us. And I feel like that also taught us to have an open mind, and that what worked for you for a while might not work for you forever. And so I think that's pretty much going to be the end of this video. I hope it wasn't super long, and I hope I didn't miss anything important out. But yeah, that pretty much concludes the video. Like I said, I know some people are going to be disappointed. Some people might even feel angry about it and not understand, because it's not the path they're on, so they might not understand how somebody else could feel this way. And that is completely okay. I understand that. I remember being vegan and seeing other people going back from being vegan, and I remember how that made me feel too. Sometimes I felt like I didn't understand, because, you know, it's not where I was at that point of my life, so I didn't understand how somebody else could take that path. But I do feel like it is important to be open, and just to remember that everyone is different, and everyone makes different choices. But you are welcome to feel however you feel. The comments are hopefully open. You guys are welcome to leave any comments you want regarding this. Discussion is always good, but try and keep it respectful. And yeah, I'll chat to you guys next time. See you later.